Ink T to the G. And I'm here with the
Frasana.
and we back with another Team Hallenzano reaction. And this is going to be Mr. Ballin, top 3 places you can't go but people went anyways, part 9. So without wasting time, we're going to get straight into it.
Let's go.
I've covered a lot of cave diving stories on this channel, and today is no different. I'm going to cover another
Duh.
one. In fact,
Yeah.
but it's unique.
Definitely.
There's not another
He's definitely a lot of cases, but guess what? I'm going to do another one. I'm like, just like us. We back with another one.
I hope it's not just like some scuba diver situation.
No, he said this one's going to be special. So let's see.
I'm going to
Extra.
cover another
Okay.
one. In fact, it's our top story today, but it's unique. There's not another cave diving story like it, and it might just be the scariest situation you could
Wow.
ever be in. But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right channel because that's all we do, and we upload 3, 4, even 5 times every week.
That's
so if that's
two.
of interest to you, please offer
We
the
do
like
the
button
same.
a bag of pistachios after you have meticulously removed all of the pistachios that
Even
you
like
open,
story are
and you
crazy.
only
I
leave
have
in the
to say
bag
that.
the ones
I
that
love them.
only ones in the bag are
His like stories are super crazy. That's one of our favorite parts. That's a good draw. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on our video as well.
Yeah.
completely sealed. Only ones left in the bag are completely sealed up. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads.
Okay.
All right, let's get into today's stories.
All right, let's get it.
Mount Fuji is the highest mountain in Japan, rising up to 3,776 meters.
Okay.
And it's actually a volcano. It's dormant. The last time it erupted was in 1707, but geologists still classify it as active. Tourists are allowed to climb Mount Fuji, but only between July and September, because in the winter months, the mountain gets completely treacherous. There's snow and ice, and the wind picks up. It's very, very dangerous, so it's off limits. Now, thrill seekers, if they really wanted to, they could climb Mount Fuji in the winter, because there
beautiful.
isn't a security guard posted up at the bottom of Mount Fuji checking people in and out. It's on you. If you want to climb it when it's off limits, well, then you're climbing at your own risk, because basically it's a terrible idea.
Makes
But
sense.
if you have the right equipment and you have all the right training, it is doable. One thrill seeker, a 47-year-old named Tetsu, decided he wanted to hike Mount Fuji in the winter of 2019. He wanted to live stream his entire journey to the summit. Now, Tetsu might have been a thrill
He
seeker,
already old.
but he certainly
Like-
wasn't a mountain climber. He did not have the experience, nor did he have any of the equipment necessary for a climb
That was
up
no
Mount
good.
Fuji in the winter. Wearing only street clothes and carrying nothing more than climbing poles and his smartphone, he turned on his live stream and he began hiking up the Shubashiri Trail. Viewers began tuning in as Tetsu happily made his way up this ash-covered trail, and then the ash turned into light snow, and then light snow turned into really heavy snow and ice and wind, and then Tetsu began complaining about how cold he was
Yeah.
and how he couldn't feel his hands, and his viewers are egging him on to keep going, keep pushing through it, and probably because of the pressure he felt from his viewers, he kept going when really this would have been the moment to turn around. When you're realizing that you don't have the right equipment and it's getting really cold.
Makes
and
sense.
you're
You don't
probably
feel
not
your
even
hands
halfway
either,
up,
like,
that's the
come on.
time to turn around, but he didn't. He pressed on. As he moved up the mountain, the path he was on continued to narrow and become increasingly more covered in ice.
Wow, real
and the
That's
guard
crazy.
fence that straddled the side of this path was getting to the place where it comes to a stop, signaling the most dangerous section of the hike, which is the last leg up to the summit. He gets to that point where the fence comes to an end, and now he's on this narrow stretch where the wind is just whipping across, and it's all ice, and he's trying to walk across the ice with this totally inappropriate footwear. He should have had on at least crampons, the metal spikes
Yeah,
that
the
go
stick,
along
yeah.
with
The
the shoe
stick
to
on
grip
it.
ice. He just had tennis shoes on.
Oh,
He's
wow.
slipping
wow.
and sliding as he's walking up this icy trail.
No,
and
man,
then he
it's
finally staggers
crazy
and falls,
dangerous.
but he catches himself. And you can hear him laughing on the live stream, joking with his audience how dangerous and slippery it is. And his viewers begin to change their tone a little bit.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, you might want to consider turning around now. But Tetsu is totally focused on getting to the top. So he stands back up and he continues to kind of shuffle his way towards the summit on this stretch of ice. He finally gets right up below the summit to where on his live stream you can actually see the top of Mount Fuji. And you can tell that his footwear at this point is basically not able to handle how slick it is. He's basically constantly stumbling. And you can see he notices a little stretch of small rocks that seem to almost make stepping stones up to the summit. And he begins walking over very carefully on the ice to try to use these rocks to get himself up to the top.
Okay.
And right as he's trying to step for one of these rocks, he loses his balance. And on camera, he says, "Wait, I'm slipping." And then he falls and begins rocketing down the side of this mountain.
Shit.
Now, when you fall on a steep mountain, you have one, maybe two chances to self-arrest. So, for example, if you had an ice pick and you were like Tetsu and you start
Right.
falling,
You didn't have
would
no
want to roll
equipment.
over
Yeah,
and
nothing.
dig the head of that ice pick into the ground and basically anchor your knees and elbows and drive everything you can into the snow to stop yourself from falling. And so if you can't do that in 1 or 2 attempts, your momentum will pick up and you'll be going too fast and you won't be able to stop yourself. And then you just gotta hope you survive the fall. Tetsu did not have an ice pick or any other tool to help him self-arrest, and he didn't have the training for what to do in a situation like this, so he didn't even attempt to roll over and dig his elbows or knees into the ground to try to slow down. So he just goes flying down the mountain, he's on his back, he's not slowing down, and he knows he's doomed. And he says on camera, "Well, it can't be helped," before he flies over the edge and falls hundreds of meters down to his death. His viewers who watched this happen alerted authorities who found his body the next day over 1,000 meters away from where he had first fallen. Unfortunately, every year there is a handful of people that attempt to climb Mount Fuji in the winter and they meet the same fate.
You tripping.
This is crazy.
Wow,
And they
crazy.
did that for
On
what?
May 7th.
Cloud.
Clout, yeah, for sure.
Okay, you wanna do this for cloud. It's
I mean,
okay.
he ended up in the clouds.
It's okay.
But he did it for clout.
Yeah, it's okay. You wanna do it, cloud. Okay, do it. But at least grab some equipment. You cannot go on a mountain like that with tennis shoes.
Oh, yeah, he was super unprepared. He was tripping.
Like, not even high speaking or completely nothing.
Yeah, he was tripping.
Like, that's crazy. That's being really stupid, to be honest.
No, that's definitely stupid.
I get it, the cloud, but at least, you know, prepare yourself a little bit.
Yeah. Don't end up in the cloud trying to chase the cloud.
Yeah.
Let's go. Geocaching.
Back in 2000, at approximately midnight Eastern Standard Time, the U.S. government discontinued its use of selective availability. Selective availability was the intentional degradation of public GPS signals. It guaranteed that civilian GPS users would not be able to pinpoint locations on a map using their GPS. They could get to within maybe 50 to 100 meters, but that was the best they could do. Prior to the year 2000, there was some concern that if you gave the general public the ability to use GPS to precisely locate things on a map, that presented an elevated national security risk. But that line of thinking became antiquated, and so on May 2nd, just after midnight, the so-called Great Blue Switch, as GPS enthusiasts refer to it, was flipped, and instantly tens of thousands of GPS receivers received this incredible upgrade. People who were following this development were eager to test out this new capability, and one such GPS enthusiast, a guy named Dave Ulmer who lived in Oregon, decided he wanted to create a sort of GPS treasure hunt. So he got this box, and inside of it he put a notebook and a pen, and he brought it out to the middle of the woods in Oregon, and he got the precise GPS coordinates of where he put it. And he took those coordinates and he went to an online forum and he posted the coordinates and he said, "Go to these coordinates, and when you get there, if you find what you're looking for, there'll be a notebook. Record yourself in the notebook, and I'll be out there to check who's done this. And if your name's in there, I'll give you credit on this forum." And so this treasure hunt went viral.
Okay, that's
and
fun.
lots of people all over the world thought it was a really cool idea to
dope.
use this new GPS technology to create treasure hunts all over the world. So people started hiding not just treasure chests with notebooks, but all sorts of random things all over the world, and then posting their coordinates online for people to find. This activity was given a name, geocaching, and it's alive and well today, and it's streamlined on the official geocaching app. But as geocaching has evolved over the years, so too has the level of difficulty at finding some of these caches. Sometimes it requires geocachers to climb mountains, other times it requires them to dive underwater, and in one case, geocachers in the Czech Republic had to climb into this strictly off-limits 5-kilometer long underground tunnel where the only 2 entry points were on the 2 extreme ends. And to get to the geocache, you had to go to the middle of the tunnel. And of course, periodically, this tunnel completely floods. On June 9th, 2018, 4 geocachers in the Czech Republic decided, you know what, we're going to go down into that tunnel and we're going to get that geocache. So they made their way over to the Metalski Brook Tunnel, which was one of the 2 entry points, and they climbed down inside. The reason this tunnel periodically floods is because rainwater gets dumped in there, And the second entry point is literally sitting in a lake. There's literally water sitting right up against the lip of this entry point.
Wow.
So even light rain will get the lake to rise just enough to where all
go
the
inside.
lake water
Yeah.
pours into this tunnel. And so the day these 4 geocachers are going into this tunnel, the weather forecast called for torrential downpours, flash flooding, and either these 4 geocachers were not paying attention to the weather, or they somehow thought this wouldn't affect their ability to get this geocache.
That's
So these
crazy.
geocachers get down into the tunnel and they start making their way towards the center to collect their prize, when outside it starts pouring rain. It rained so much, so fast, that the lake entrance started dumping tens of thousands of gallons of water in on one side, and then on the other side, where this other entrance was at the bottom of a hill, you had all this water rushing in. So it was like 2 huge waves of water crashing in on them.
Crazy.
And in fact, the survivors would say, because they were right towards the middle of the tunnel, they heard what sounded like a car or like a train. It was getting closer and closer and closer. And that's when they realized it was 2 waves of water crashing in on them. In a panic, they turned and started running back towards the entrance they came in on. But as they're running, they're hit with this wave, and 2 of the geocachers got sucked underneath.
Wow.
And the other 2 were pushed up and were basically body surfing their way towards the lake entrance. And so as they're moving forward, the wave from the lake comes in and hits them, and now the water is dangerously close to the ceiling. And the 2 that have been pushed towards the lake entrance, they don't know what's happened to the other 2, but they're just swimming as fast as they can towards the lake entrance.
We'll figure that out
They
later.
swam almost 2 kilometers in this tunnel as
That's
the
a
water
lot.
got higher and higher and higher, and they're barely able to breathe. By the end, they only had about a couple inches of clearance by the time they got to the lake. And they finally pop out and they get in the lake, and then luckily there was someone that saw them and brought their boat over and picked them up. As for their 2 friends, unfortunately, they didn't get out of there in time and they both drowned.
Damn.
Wow.
That's crazy.
What a game.
Yeah. I think it's crazy though, because he said, I mean, there wasn't scuba diving, but that's somebody drowning. And this is going to be some scuba diving.
I know, like that's crazy.
Oh, sure. You might want to check.
Honestly, I always made fun of my grandma.
You might want to check your camera. You're over here kind of in the matrix.
Okay, sorry. Excuse me.
All right. So let's keep it lit. All right. You ready?
I think so.
All right. Cool. You might want to scoot up a little closer. There it is.
Okay.
All right, gotta register you on camera. All right, let's get number 1.
There's an island off the coast of Croatia called Scholt. Only 19 kilometers long by 5 kilometers wide, this tiny island is a short ferry ride and an ideal day trip from Split, which is Croatia's second biggest city. It's a hilly island with these beautiful pebble beaches and absolutely crystal clear water. It's a very popular tourist destination that's actually famous for its honey, as well as an underwater cave that kills virtually everyone who goes inside. On September 10th, 2002, 31-year-old Miroslav was enjoying a vacation with friends on Scholt Island. It was a little after 8:30 in the evening when one of his friends suggested they go scuba diving. Because of its beautiful clear waters, Scholt Island is a very popular scuba diving destination. And so as such, scuba diving takes place really at all hours around Scholt Island, but the vast majority of it takes place in these safe little alcoves where it's not very deep and you can see fish and wildlife and it's very controlled. But Miroslav and his friends didn't want to do regular scuba diving.
Why?
They wanted to check out the underwater cave they had heard about just south of Scholt Island in Poganica Bay. They had heard this cave was extremely dangerous and only expert divers were allowed to go in there. And even though they were not expert divers, they were barely novice divers, they thought, you know what, how bad can it be? Let's go check it out for ourselves. So they convinced one of the boat drivers to drive them out to the area in Poganica Bay that sat over where this cave entrance was. And so
If you really have to, like, convince somebody to drive you there and maybe won't say, no, it's bad, it's dangerous, it means it's bad.
Yeah. Very true.
Like, sometimes you have to listen to those people when they say, hey, you know, it's better don't go there. Sometimes, you know, be smart.
Yeah, that's the smart thing to do. Yeah, I'm not trying to convince nobody to take me someplace that I was told not to go. Like, that's crazy.
They drive out, They jump in the water, and sure enough, right below the surface, about 10 meters down, is this hole on the sea floor, and that is the single entrance into this cave. When you go in this hole, you have to go down head first because it's so tight, and once you go down about 10 meters, you reach this junction, where to one side, it leads to the shallow gallery, which is this space that goes down to 36 meters, and there's no other caves or entrances or anything off of it. It's just kind of like a chasm inside of the cave. From the junction, if you go the other way, it brings you to the deep gallery, which is just a bigger version of the shallow gallery, and it goes down to 57 meters. Inside of the deep gallery, however, at the very top on the ceiling, there is a very thin air pocket. Now, there's a few reasons why this cave is so dangerous, beyond just being an underwater cave, which in and of itself is quite dangerous. The first one is the visibility inside of the cave is basically zero. The only light that comes in is through that single entrance that leads to that junction, but the light doesn't make it past the junction into the two galleries. So it is truly pitch black inside of those two galleries. You also have all this silt that's caked to the inside of the cave. So as soon as you get in there, your flippers and your movement, it
Remember they got the guy with the silt the last time?
Yeah.
picks the silt off the wall and muddies the water around you to where even if you had a flashlight, it's like driving in fog. The lights only pick up the fog right in front of you. You can't see beyond the fog. Well, in a tunnel, you shine your light on silt, and you're just going to see the silt, not beyond it. So basically, going into this cave, you're going to be blindfolded. Another significant danger of being inside of this cave is after you've gone down to your respective gallery, whether it's the shallow or the deep gallery, when you're going back up again on your ascent and you're getting to that junction point, it is possible to confuse the other entrance to the other gallery with the exit to the cave. And so if you make that mistake and you go into the other gallery, remember, you're blind, you got silt kicked up, it's already dark, you need to, by touch, figure out you've made a mistake and then backtrack and go out the right way you came. And so if you're low on air, and you make this...
That sounds like too many things.
I already have enough reason to say no thank you.
I felt like they lost the air already before they even went. That doesn't sound like they go.
Yeah, you have to dare touching, figure it out, and they're not even experts. So
So they did.
Mistake, you better hope you catch it fast enough that you can get out before your air runs out. So a little after 9:15 p.m., Miroslav goes in first, followed by his other two friends. Miroslav reaches the junction and he turns towards the deep gallery. He goes all the way down to 57 meters. He touches the bottom, he turns around, and he starts making his ascent. On the way up, he gets to the junction, and he makes the critical mistake of going into the shallow gallery, believing that is the exit to the cave. He probably got in there, bumped his head, started feeling around, he's kicking up silt, he's starting to panic, he's looking for the way out again. He finds the exit to the junction, but instead of taking the exit out of the cave, he makes the same mistake again and goes into the deep gallery. And now he's in the deep gallery, he's feeling around, he's running low on air, and based on his dive computer, he was fumbling around in there for quite some time. And having spent some time underwater myself in the pitch black as a Navy SEAL, I can tell you that it's very easy to imagine, it'd be so easy to stay calm and have your bearings and know where you are. But when you are completely in total pitch black underwater, it actually is hard to tell what's up, what's down. You can feel the pressure in your ears. That's a good way to tell where you are in the water. But, realistically, it's totally possible to get completely disoriented underwater. And my guess is Miroslav was totally disoriented. And so he stopped and he's trying to make sense of what's happening. And at some point, Miroslav must have looked at his air gauge and realized, I'm out of air now. And he made one last push to try to get to the surface, but he hit a ceiling. And that's when he realized, based on maybe the touch and feel, maybe he took his gloves off and he was feeling around, he felt that he was in the air pocket, that thin amount of air that sat right at the top of the deep gallery. He must have realized at this point that there was so little air down here that he probably only had maybe a few minutes that he could be down here breathing before he was going to drown. And in terms of making his ascent to the surface on a breath hold, the only place where there's an air pocket is the deep gallery, and so probably he knew that. And so he's thinking, I'm maybe 40, 50 meters under the surface right now, and I can barely catch my breath now. I'm not going to be able to hold my breath to the surface. And so staring down a certain horrific drowning death, he pulled out his dive knife and he plunged it into his heart. When they did his autopsy later, it would show he did not drown. He died because he had a knife in his heart. Back on the surface, the other two divers had gotten out successfully, and they're in the boat, and they're waiting for Miroslav. But after over an hour went by and he hadn't surfaced, they contacted the police. The police show up and they send 2 special divers down into the cave to look for Miroslav. One of those divers was a 25-year-old named Oliver Maric. And so these 2 divers go down and they're looking for Miroslav and they can't find him and they're running out of air. And on their ascent, Oliver Maric makes the same mistake that Miroslav did and is trapped inside of the shallow gallery. The other diver initially made that mistake but managed to get out again, but Oliver went back and forth between the deep and the shallow gallery until he too drowned in that cave. It would take 3 days for the police to find and remove Miroslav and Oliver from this cave. And to this day, the police warn divers not to go in this cave unless they're experienced enough to be going in there. But year after year, inexperienced divers try their luck inside of this cave and they make that same mistake. They get trapped and they die.
Crazy.
Yeah, you said even the person that's supposed to save you died.
Like he was an expert.
Yeah.
He made the same exact mistake and died.
And he was out of air because he couldn't find you. So that's
Yeah, but put a knife in your heart. That's crazy.
I don't know. Drowning is crazy. I don't want to drown. You hear how much I say it all the time.
Same. Me and the water. You know, we cool. But
I don't know.
wow.
I don't know. Well, anyway, thank you for tuning in with us, Team Hallenzano. I am Ink T to the G with the on this Mr. Ballin' top 3 places that you can't go but people went anyways, number 9. And if you like that one, go ahead and click this button right here to go ahead and get to the next one. Until next time, we gone. Peace.
Bye.